Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stakes credibility and taxpayer money on Argentina bet. That's the headline from the New York Times, reporting by Alan Rapport and Colby Smith from Washington. As a top investor for George Soros in the 1990s, Scott Bessent made a splash with a $10 billion bet that the British pound was overvalued. That wager helped break the Bank of England with devastating trades against the pound. In 2013, Bessent netted $1 billion for Soros's fund with a giant bet against the Japanese yen. Now, in an unconventional move with little precedent, Bessent is staking his credibility as President Trump's Treasury Secretary and billions of taxpayer dollars on another type of currency bet. The former hedge fund manager is orchestrating a $20 billion lifeline to prop up the Argentine peso, which has been declining in value. The backstop is intended to support Argentina's economy and its president, Javier Milei. On Friday, Bessent said the Treasury Department had intervened for at least a second time to buy pesos. He wrote on social media, "Treasury remains in close communication with Argentina's economic team as they work to make Argentina great again. Treasury is monitoring all markets, and we have the capacity to act with flexibility and with force to stabilize Argentina." On the sidelines of the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank this week, Bessent toyed with an additional $20 billion in financing for the beleaguered country, on top of a $20 billion infusion in the form of a currency swap with its central bank. At the center of his bet is that the currency of Argentina, a debt-ridden country whose economy has required more than 20 bailouts, is undervalued. If he is right, the United States could make money by acquiring pesos that will eventually be worth more and by gaining access on favorable terms to Argentina's natural resources. If he is wrong, the United States could wind up subsidizing yet another failed bailout for a country that has defaulted 9 times. It is highly unusual for the United States to directly intervene in another country's economy. Although it did rescue Mexico in 1995, historically it involves other nations or institutions such as the IMF to share the burden of risk. The outcome carries steep political consequences for both Bessent and Trump. The president is already facing criticism for bailing out Argentina at a time when American farmers are struggling as a result of his trade war with China and federal workers are going without pay during a government shutdown. Martin Mullisen, a former IMF official now a fellow at the Atlantic Council, said, "They're putting their reputation on the line, especially Bessent's reputation. If the United States ended up losing money," he said, "they would have a lot of explaining to do." That's the story. Thanks for listening.